So we're going to continue on. We're doing the daily Zohar, but we're going to continue with what we had started regarding Parashat Ki Tetzeh, just because of the spiritual, and we're going to concentrate on the spiritual aspect of the words of the parasha. And we left with the question that Rav Scheinberger said, why is it only on Shabbat one needs to be careful from going from Reshut HaYachid to Reshut HaRabim, and so on. And of course, talking about the Shmirah, the spiritual aspect of Reshut HaRabim, which is the Jewish home and so on. Why are we allowed to do so during the week, and we are not allowed to do so on Shabbat? What's the difference between one and the other? And we said the Reshut HaYachid is called a Bayit HaYehudi, the Jewish home. And Reshut HaRabim, the public domain, is the world out there. And on that the Zohar says the following, that this is like matzah and Pesach. Rabbi Elazar asked Rabbi Shimon in the Zohar itself, if the matzah is keneged yetzer tov, for the good, for the good in us, and the chametz is parallel and compared to the yetzer hara, that urge inside of us that forms the bad, why don't we eat matzah all year long? So tochal matzah all year long. And why are we allowed to eat chametz all year long? You should say, if this is bad for you. For example, the Ramban writes that the reason why we don't eat like seafood like shrimp, lobster, etc., or non-kosher animals like pig and so on and so forth, is because those types of food, or the non-kosher food, creates what is so-called timtum hachushim. It kind of makes you opaque. In other words, you become spiritually sterile. You're not going to be able to grow spiritually. According to the Kabbalah, is that the beirur, the assortment in which we need to perform by eating those foods, is greater than our ability to here, take the pencil, is greater than our ability to process, and therefore it would simply overwhelm us. So, hello Michael. So on that, Rabbi Shimon answers him that this precise eating that we have to do during the Pesach, and it's measured, and we says you have to eat kebeitza, you have to eat kazait, and so on and so forth. So that precise eating is enough for us, and it's enough to guard us throughout the entire year, and in a way gives us an immunity. It immunes us for the rest of the year. So it's like a booster shot that we get, that spiritually we're able to process the food, and this is enough to maintain us. So you don't need to eat it all year long. It will be almost I'll get into it. So that basically is, you give us an immunity, give us enough antidote to deal with the Yetzer Hara throughout the whole entire year. And so is the issue on Shabbat, that whoever eats chametz in Pesach, if you eat chametz in Pesach, you are increasing the control of the Yetzer Hara, of your bad urges who form bad throughout the whole entire year. And therefore, by doing so, you are controlled by the Yetzer Hara. You have no Yetzer Hara. That's why the Ari wrote that if a person is nizhar, is careful, bechametz kolshu, anything, in Pesach, muftach lo shelo yechta ba, it's guaranteed that he's not going to have an avera, or at least issue with ma'achot asot the whole entire year. Okay, so that is a special thing. A person needs to be careful. Excuse me. You eat chametz in Pesach, you're basically giving up your control throughout the whole entire year in terms of your ability to choose between good and bad, and you're going to simply be a puppet of your Yetzer Hara. Your uncontrolled urges will take over you. And that is something that one needs to be careful. People look at the Torah and the mitzvot and so on and so forth. One looks at it as a way of life, the other looks at it as a God commandment, the other one was born into that, the other one thinks it's a burden, and so on and so on and so forth. Not realizing that these are vehicles not only to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but rather to make you free. How do mitzvot and Torah make you free? First of all, if you are careful about it, you are aware in your mitzvot. Those mitzvot spiritually cleanse you. What do I mean by cleanse you? It's not that you're not going to have any Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara was given to us for a purpose, and that's a good purpose. But rather, my ability to see and to distinguish between good and bad, my ability not to go into self-persuasion, why is it that what I'm doing is good, but I know it's bad? That ability to be able to do those things is freedom. Now I can choose. But if I cannot distinguish between good and bad, when I think that bad is good and good is bad, I'm like a blind man. I don't know. I'm walking in the dark. And whatever comes to me, I grab. It's not a free choice. It's like a default. I'm not choosing. So that is something that one needs to remember. You want to be a free man? Very simple. Keep Torah and mitzvot. Keep your Shabbat. You know where Shabbat is. And that's the whole concept behind it. That you know when the Shabbat comes, from this point on, there's nothing else you can do. All that you did during the week stops. You're able to distinguish between Shabbat, weekday, Pesach, not Pesach. The ability to have a clear cut. This is mine, this is not mine. And that is, again, we're coming back to the mitzvah of Bal Tachmod, don't desire. That is Shakul Keneged Anei Hashem Elokecha. When you see something that belongs to your friend, oh, he has a nice car. Man, I want that car. That is Bal Tachmod. Why? Because I failed to acknowledge that this is not my car. That is his car. And failing to acknowledge that that's his car is failing to acknowledge that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him the car and not me. Failing to acknowledge God himself. So there's lack of ability to distinguish, to have a clear cut when one starts and the other one ends, and so on and so forth. That lack of ability will destroy you. That's why it is very important to know when Shabbat starts, when Shabbat ends. That's why I don't like that gray area of, I gotta, but Rabbi, I've got 18 minutes. No, you don't have 18 minutes. I told you this a million times. If you need to be somewhere at 9 o'clock, you don't get there at 9. You get there at 10 to. That's being on time, being early. Because if you work for me and I want you at 9 o'clock there, I want you at 9 o'clock working. I don't want you at 9 o'clock to come in, have your coffee, hang your jacket, put your head down, say hello to the secretary, go to the bathroom, come back, stretch yourself, do a couple of push-ups, and then you work. By the time you work, I lost an hour of your time. Then I'm paying. That's not knowing what you were doing. Not knowing, living in this fog of confusion, not knowing where things starts, where things end, what is it expected from you, what is that you want out of your life, is not considered to be living as far as I'm concerned. That's the problem of our generation. Many people, most of the time, most of their lives, do things without knowing why they're doing it. You're going to school. Why are you going to school? I don't know. Find a job? So why don't you find a job? Why are you going to school? mean, that's regardless of the fact that today colleges and universities turn more into vocational training than actually academic scholarly institutions. It's vocational training. They train you to become a psychologist, a teacher, this and that. It's not academic anymore. They don't encourage the academic research. So if you really want a job, go get a job. Who's stopping you getting a job? What, only jobs that you go to school, to college, to you make money? There's many jobs you can go and do and make more money than if you go to college. Just not going to college. You know how much a plumber makes? You know how much an electrician makes? You know how much a car mechanic makes? You know how many other things make? How about a baker? He doesn't go to college. You want bagels in the morning? Right? Ooh, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to become a nurse. How many years are you going to put as a nurse? I'm going to put, 4 years of college and then 3 more years in nursing school. And then I'm going to be anesthesia nurse because everybody heard you're making a lot of money. Meanwhile, you're going to spend as much time as you would, I don't know what. Go become a plumber. Go rake in the money after 2 years. You know, you have a wheelbarrow. Go yourself a pickup truck. Put all the money in. You don't need to do that. The problem is you don't know why you're doing things. You actually never sat down and said, well, I'm doing it because that's what I really want. Oh, your mother told you that, your aunt told you that, your father told you that, everybody told you that. Meanwhile, you're not living your life. That's not knowing why you're doing things. That's why you fail. That's why most people are unhappy and they fail in their lives. They fail. Even if it's not in their work, they would fail into the family life. They'll fail as individuals. They fail. They never did what they wanted to do because they never knew what they wanted to do. So they live in this like fog of disillusion. They don't know what's going on with them. Now, during the whole entire time we're here, we need to do things. We need to fix things, and everything yesh lo tikun mishelo. Everything has its own purpose to fix. And everything that needs to be fixed has to have the appropriate time to be fixed. So during the weekdays, we are doing biru, we are sorting. On Shabbat, we don't do that. That's the melacha. And if you take it and you fix it on its time, it would not harm you. But if you fix it not on its time, it's a problem. For example, you need to check your brakes of your car, routinely. Every now and then, you need to check your brakes. If you check your brakes after you had an accident, I don't think it's going to do you any good. So, Shabbat is the day of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the day in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows us His rest. What does it mean? The Kedusha of the seventh day keeps the person from the whole entire week, just like the Chametz in Pesach, so you won't go down. So you won't be immersed in impurity and filth. You want to stay pure the whole entire week? Not a problem. Sanctify your Shabbat. If you see that during the week you went a little, stray, look into your Shabbat. The rest of the week will be determined, the Kedusha. Why? Because Shabbat, we established it already earlier. Shabbat is the center of the week. And it would reflect the light. So if somewhere in that light source that we call Shabbat, that spiritual light source that we call Shabbat, there is a mirror that does not allow the light to go through and shine completely, I'm going to deflect the light, and in this spot is going to be dark. In that darkness, Tum'ah comes. So if something happens to you during the week, you look into your Shabbat. And that is a fact. And why is that? Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates this for us in order also not to get swallowed completely with materialistic entities of the week. We get carried away. We have a tendency to lose track. We are not naturally good trackers. Only if you've been into the field or you went hiking for a long time, you know how to track yourself. Most people, you put them in an empty field, in an open field, they will get lost in an open field. They don't know how to maneuver themselves. You give people a map and a compass in an open field, they will get lost. Most people cannot find their way out of a paper bag. Why? Because we tend to overdo everything. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, listen, I'm going to give you an azimuth point, a point of reference. And that point of reference is going to call Shabbat. And I'm going to put it at the middle of the week. We always refer to the week as Sunday, Monday, so on and so forth. Shabbat comes at the end. Shabbat came at the end, at the beginning of the process. But friend, that point on, Shabbat is the spiritual center of the week. Tuesday, Shabbat, the influence goes from the previous Shabbat to Tuesday, and from the upcoming Shabbat, it starts on Wednesday. So you have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Shabbat in the middle, the influence. Shabbat is here, but the rays of the Kedusha go like that. So during the whole entire week, a person needs to go to what we call Reshut HaRabim, to the public domain, to go to the field. And once you go out of your misgeret, out of your domain, the place in which you sanctify, the environment or the surrounding in which you sanctify, right? It's going to be Reshut HaRabim. That's called Ki Tetzeh. You're going to go out. If you're going out to work, let's say you are in Yeshiva and you're learning, the Yeshiva for you is Reshut HaYachid. That's Makom Torah. It's Reshut HaYachid. It's Makom of purity and Tahara. But if you decide to go to Reshut HaRabim, you need to do the following. You need to make every place that you go to mekudash. You cannot fall into the filth and the dirt of the place or outside. On the contrary, your job is to clean it. Your job is to act different. Your job would be that you are, as a religious person, would create an atmosphere around you that people would not speak in foul language. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't talk like this. That's what you need to do. That people would look at you and would say, wow, look at this person, how beautiful she dressed, so modest, I really appreciate it. And this guy is always clean, he always looks good. You're never going to see him, and you know what, his mouth is always clean. So then people around you are going to get so-called infected with Kedusha. You slowly change the environment around you. But you need to know that this is a war. And that is a battlefield. You're going now to enemy territory. Do you have the tools to combat that? Do you have the tools to deal with it? Do you know how to fight? You can't go to war if you're injured. Now, if you're injured spiritually, you cannot go outside. You're going to have a spiritual gangrene. You're going to die. And who knows who else you're going to infect with your things. That's why I told you 1,000,000 times, if you have friends that are no good, cut the string. There's no mitzvah. People think that life is a Facebook. That if you have 1,000 friends on Facebook, you made it. If you have 5,000 people on Facebook, you made it. You're a popular person. That's not true. Life is not Facebook. Life is not Facebook. If you have one friend throughout your life that stayed your friend for 30 years, you have achieved something. So you go out and you think that this is what it is. And you go outside to the world, and guess what happens? I need to make friends with everybody. When you're injured, when you're spiritually not capable, and what's going to happen to you? You're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. The bad influence is going to come. There are many bugs and bacteria out in the air, and nobody seems to get sick. But if you have an open wound, and you're going into a place that it's not clean, guess what happens? You're going to get affected first. Because our skin is a parallel to something greater, to a spiritual shield. Our skin is a membrane that protects us from how should I say it, invasive elements into our body. One of them, the biggest one, is a shield. And through the openings of our body, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made us, even in the nose, we have those little teeny hairs that if some foreign object goes in, we sneeze it out. It's a reflex to sneeze out. Why? Because one has to be very careful what goes into your body. Or your ear, the same thing. You have teeny little hair in your ear to prevent you feel something is itchy. Even in your eyelids. HaKadosh Baruch Hu may give you eyelids. So if you see something that is inappropriate, you do what? You close your eyes. You don't go like this. Wow, you saw that? You don't do it. And if your eyelids are not practiced, in closing, the art of closing them, you have your hands to close it. And that is a battlefield. So it says, Ki titzeh, you're going to go out. Mireshut hayachid lereshut harabim. Reshut harabim is the place that you do milchemet hayetzer. You go outside and you find the yetzer there. You don't find the yetzer in the kedusha because there's nothing to fight. So you need to watch out that when you're going to go out, you're going to have a lot of temptation. What are you going to see? Eshet yefat toar, a beautiful woman. And then what happens when you see her? V'chashakta ba. And then you desire her. Are you prepared for that? Somebody once told me, he says, I can tell you, he says he lives in a very, very religious community. He says, where the guys go to all their life, they spend in the neighborhood, they spend in yeshiva, they they don't know anything. They get married, they stay, or before they get married, they stay for a few years in Bet Medrash, and then some of them have to go to work. He says, you can tell right away if a Bachor went to work and he's outside with the outside world or not. You can tell right away. You can tell right away. You're going to see it. You're going to see things that you're going to say, wow. And then what you're going to tell yourself? If you are prepared and spiritually prepared, it's okay, honestly, there's no difference between seeing a beautiful woman and seeing a beautiful car or seeing a beautiful tree or seeing a beautiful house. It's a thing. If I see a beautiful house, do I want to go and live in this house? No, it's a nice house, but doesn't mean I want to live there. Or I see myself a beautiful Ferrari, it's a beautiful car. Doesn't mean I want to own it. It's a thing. Or I see a beautiful tree. I go to the botanical garden, see a beautiful tree. I say, oh, honey, why don't you get the shovel? Let's take the tree home. Nobody does it. Well, it's a beautiful tree. Let me take a picture, and that's it. But why, when it comes to your Yetzer Hara, you want it? Because you never prepared yourself to deal with it. It's okay, so you see a beautiful woman. Okay, now what? Now what? What happened to you? Oh, I have to get it. Well, something's wrong with you. You were sick. Let's take you to a doctor. Let's take you to a spiritual doctor in which will help you. And that's milchemet hayetzer. That does not happen in Bet Midrash. That does not happen in a place of kedusha. It happens when you go outside to the world. And you're going to go outside, and you're going to be careful. And in that place, we need to do what we call milchemet haberur ben tov lera. We need to assort between good. The fight, the battle that we're fighting, is the distinction to be able to distinguish between good and bad. In order to take the bad, to throw it out, and to remain with the good. That is a battle. That's it for today.